Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today, beautiful? My name is Joesephyr and welcome to another Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Omnia. Now this one's a little bit early on the back of the fact that we have Locke and his banners coming out on Monday, but after that I'm hoping to return to the regular scheduling of having everything that's coming up in the week released on Tuesday. So if you want to know more about Papalimo and Edgar and all the stuff that comes with those, then that's not going to be too far behind either. But I wanted to get back to a semblance of normality with my videos now that we're coming to the end of the anniversary period for the game. But in this video we're going to be discussing Locke, Firion, Tifa and Xande and their C90s and any new gear that we might be seeing from that, as well as Dimensions End Transcendance Tier 7, which, from what I know, you'll be pleased to hear is a bit easier to play through than perhaps the last couple of tiers that we played through. So if you'd like to know more about those guys and the event, then stay tuned and keep on watching. Before we get started, of course, don't forget to check out all of my social media links down below. I'm also very pleased to announce my next charity stream, and something exciting for people who've been waiting to see what happens with Final Fantasy Countup, because we finally have a release date for Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster, which is now going to be the 23rd of this month, and I will be celebrating the launch of that game by doing a triple threat, as it were, by doing a charity marathon cosplay stream of Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster on the day of release, so that we can all play through the game, and I'll be dressed as Kefka the entire time, and it's all going to be in support of Mind, which is a mental health charity, and we're going to be doing 15 hours for the 1 in 15 people who make an attempt on their own lives every year. And once again, it's a charity that's actually helped me in my mental health state out in the past. I actually did talk to quite a few charities back when I was very depressed in 2020, and mine was certainly one of them, so I cannot wait to be able to support them in turn as they did me once upon a time. So definitely check the links in the description box below if you're interested in having a look at that. Over on Patreon, I do always shout out one of my patrons every time I release a new video, and today that person is going to be Evil Nice Guy, who is part of my ultimate tier of patron, but it's a very interesting title card in that the request they made for the commission for it was actually a picture of me from when I used to play UFS, which was a card game back in the day, and one I was very well known for, and I did very well in it, and I won a champion card from it. And Evil Nice Guys managed to find a picture of it and wanted it as their title card. So hopefully you enjoy this as much as I had a bit of fun making it as well. So a massive thank you for your support, and to all of my patrons that allow me to continue to make videos at the frequency at which I do. And then lastly, of course, let's not forget to shout out all the other content creators and resources out there for Dissidia Omnia, with big mentions, of course, to Tom Troop and their fantastic infographics, Leo, Bob and Mediu for their translations over on Reddit, Dissidia Compendium, Dissidia DB and DissidiaInfo.com for all of the fabulous information that they provide us as well. So as we always do, we're going to start with the banners themselves and have a look at what we have to expect from these particular. Banner that we're going to talk about here is going to feature the return of Firion and his BT, his LD, and the brand new rework that he gets along with his BT+. And we also see Xande return as well with his C90 buff as well. So we'll talk about Xande first. Xande actually doesn't get reworked, which in all honesty is a little bit sad, because Xande's never been fantastic at this point in time, and the only thing that really changes for him here is his EX. So his EX, with like the buff that he gets, and while he has the passive equipped, he does more bravery damage with his stuff, and the recast rate for Meteor has been increased naturally. Now bear in mind that the Pool of Darkness buff that he gets from this also increases the recast rate of his EX, so you're going to be doing it that much more frequently. You actually also start with a stack of the Pool of Darkness, so the recast rate is obviously quicker, and it does a bit more damage, and all of his stuff does more damage in general. And it also adds a HP damage up effect to the Pool of Darkness stack, so he's going to be doing more damage, casting his EX more frequently as time goes on. As a Dark Enchanter, yeah, he's okay. He deals okay-ish damage. 3 HP dumps sounds terrible to say it, but it's probably not that great. Certainly not for a damage dealer or even a support character that isn't providing healing or anything like that. It's like, yes, he has Enchant and Imperil, but so do a lot of characters at this point that do much better than him, even within C90 era, looking at you, Ico and Garnet. And the rest of his kit just isn't that great. He has Rebreak on his LD, but that's pretty much all I have to say when it comes to Xande. There's not an awful lot that's interesting about him, certainly not that's new. Firion, on the other hand, does get some pretty nice stuff. Like, it's nothing crazy, Well, actually, that's not true. It would have been had we not seen a certain young princess come along. But he does get reworked. So basically his blood weapon and his blood weapon plus and his seize attack all get increased like damage, increased number of hits. They do like multiple HP dumps as long as you're using the plus versions of them, which you should be because it means he's using the plus. He's above half health, which is where he needs to be. You get 3 HP dumps from his seize attack plus, which is pretty nice. His EX, honestly, is a little bit lacking, if you ask me. Like, if you're using the plus version of it, you get double AoE 100% HP dumps, which is a thing, I suppose. It's nothing super crazy. And then his LD also gets reworked as well, so that you get, so the Vortex of Arms does more HP dumps. Drain Trap does more HP dumps as well. He gets increases to his bravery and HP damage percentages. You obviously have the basic auras that he's always had, like just generally. He just hits harder in everything he does, which realistically is all he really needs to do, because as an off-turn damage dealer, he was like the OG boss rush king. So it was really nice to see him come back and be competitive at least with his damage, because having double HP dumps on your healing trap, it's actually kind of nice. His BT plus effect as well. Right, so his BT plus, I was really ready to green this, like, out the gate, because of the fact that we get the max brave cap ups hitting on Firion, which to me is like the biggest stat that you can really ask for right now, in combination with party-wide brave gains, as long as you have full health or more, like with various characters. And you get max brave up, brave regen, and you get brave refund on all of your stuff, which is great. Except Garnet does all of that. Probably better. And also has Enchant in Peril. And off-turn damage. And healing. And a lot more of each of it. Like, maybe Firion's better at healing than Garnet is, but outside of that, if you wanted to pair the two together, you probably could. And honestly, like, if you already have Firion, like I do, I think there is merit in carrying somebody like Firion with just a book on his burst weapon if you have it, and then carrying a different BT plus character like Garnet and using the two together. You don't have to green a unit for them to be usable, but the reality of the matter is that we only have so many resources in order to green units. So if you have Garnet, would I be greening Firion? Probably not, but would I be using him even if I'm not going to green him? Probably. There are places such as Dimensions End Transcendance 7 where he'll perform very well, even if you're not using him with a full green book and all the bells and whistles that come with it. His basic burst phase is okay, like it's not going to do anything crazy without that extra 2 ingots, like you're not going to get the brave cap up, you're not going to get the brave gains up, but you're still going to get some niceness out of it, and you get Vortex of Arms, which is a half decent damaging attack and a trap, which will coincide nicely with Garnet's extra off-turn damage. So while I think he's nice, he definitely is a character that suffers greatly from Garnet's existence. So then we move on to the second banner, which is going to feature Locke, his brand new LD, his brand new BT, his reworked kit, and all the bells and whistles that come with him. Tifa will also make a return here with her LD and her C90 upgrades, and then we get another EX that's there for Chaos challenges, but realistically we don't even need those anymore when it comes to double banners, necessarily. Now Tifa doesn't get an awful lot out of her C90 upgrade in terms of anything outside of her EX, but it's still really good. Like, she doesn't need a lot. She's still a very strong single target damage dealer that will churn out damage. Her EX passive now gives her access to a larger amount of HP and bravery damage in terms of percentage-wise. And then when you get Dolphin Blow combo, you then get 6 HP dumps on her Brave HP AX attack that also happens to be a launch that delays by a turn. So basically, it just rounds out the rest of her kit so that you pressing her EX doesn't feel like a wasted button anymore, and it hits really hard, the same as all of everything Tifa does is. She can still free turn for days using a combination of her skill 2 and her HP plus she gets from her LD. She still has hard-hitting buttons in her skill 1 and now her EX and the LD itself. You have a lot of toys to play with Tifa. She's not like the only amazing damage dealer she was when her LD first came out, but that's definitely not to say that she's not worth looking at now still. Okay, so now let's talk about Locke. Now, Locke's kit is relatively complex, and a lot of people, I've seen Reddit, there's been about 20 different flowcharts to use Locke, etc., and I think people are making him look a lot more complicated than he actually is. The thing with Locke is that he kind of has an objective in his rotation that a lot of characters don't really have, which comes from part of his rework that gives him a special attack that hits really hard in a similar fashion to Machina. However, he also has auras, healing, battery, and a fantastic BT effect that we'll get to that will round him out, that will make you want to learn this rotation. So I'll try and break it down as best I can for you. So we'll first start by looking at the rework that he gets here. So Sneak Slash and Sneak Slash Plus get significantly better by having extra HP dumps added to them. You can also get Sneak Slash Plus either by using Sneak Slash or by using HP Attack Plus Miracle Shoes, which is a free turn attack that you wouldn't have been, that you get either that or Genji Glove. So if you get that, then you can use it to get Sneak Slash Plus, but realistically Genji Glove is the ability that you're wanting. And then you have Phoenix Ray, which is another double HP dump that heals the party as well, which is quite nice as well. And that just gets a double HP dump on it and recovery of bravery between attacks. His C65 also cleanses all of his debuffs, which is quite nice. You know, that's an extra thing to have. Reduces target's bravery by 100, dispels buffs from them, so he's now got access to that too, because why not throw the kitchen sink in there? And he gets steal items, so he also gets either Genji Glove or Miracle Shoes from this as well, and then his Brave Cap is increased for the taking. Now, Mirage Dive is extended quite heavily to then get multiple HP dumps across it, as it's the case with most of his stuff. He gets more Brave damage up. He then gets, he starts with Sneak Slash Plus instead of Sneak Slash, which is quite nice. And then you get HP Attack Master Scroll, which is what you were categorically wanting to use with him before this point. You don't want to use this button ever with Locke now, and the reason for that is part of his rework. So his rework to his HP attacks that comes with his EX means that he gets a brand new attack that only unlocks if he has Master Scroll from his EX and Genji Glove that comes from his Skill 1 50% chance, his C65 50% chance, or his LD and the attack that comes off of that. Now, Genji Glove and Master Scroll hits 2 Brave HP attacks 8 times. So you're looking at Machina level damage with that attack. It's very powerful, and obviously if you use Master Scroll or Genji Glove before you have both of them, you will lose it, and then it will break up your rotation and you'll have to go around and get it again. So realistically, you want to be using your EX to get Master Scroll, either of any of the other skills that grant Genji Glove for you to get that, and then making use of Genji Glove X Master Scroll. If you don't have those two, your next ability should realistically be trying to get one of those two items. Now he does with his LD, which I'll go over now as well. That's also large brave group brave HP attack that hits 4 times. Also gives him Brigand's Glove and Thief Bracer, which is the ability that gives him access to a brave attack that also guarantees that he's going to get Genji Glove, but you can only use this once before it reverts back to normal, so use this sparingly and only if you have to. He also gets Genji Glove and Master Scroll from using the LD attack, so that guarantees a nuke, as a lot of people call it, but the Genji Glove X Master Scroll attack. And you also get Heart's Chains Unbound, which is HP damage up for him. He keeps 20% of his bravery when he uses HP attacks. While he's got Brigand's Glove and Thief's Bracer active, he gets more bravery damage. And it's just good all-around stuff for him. Now, obviously you want to make sure you'll get, this all adds up to what I was saying earlier. When his skill 2 is the ability that you want to use the least, and it's a double HP dumping AoE healing attack, it says a lot about Locke's kit and how far it can go. So as long as you're using, like I said, skill 1, C65, either a Thief's Bracer mug from his LD or the LD itself to get Genji Glove, and then either the EX to guarantee Master Scroll, or the LD because it gives you both, they're going to be your objectives. All roads are going to try to lead to doing Genji Glove X Master Scroll. So that's where you're going to want to go with it. Oh, we haven't actually talked about his burst yet. Now, the burst, I think, is what really kind of pushes him over the edge, because the rest of it is all very nice stuff. He's got, like, all these bits and pieces that he has access to, and a big damage attack at the end. Obviously, that on its own isn't worth it, because somebody like Machina can churn that kind of damage out every turn. But Locke's BT effect, all party bravery attacks ignore defense, which is crazy. You can't be broken. And you also all gain Barsh's ability, where if a party member goes below 50% damage, or below 50% HP, they heal back up to 50% HP. Now, this isn't going to protect you from death, like, it's not going to protect you from KO, like Barsh would, but if you pair up Locke with somebody like Queen, who happens to have party-wide last stand, then your team is practically invincible. Not only that, but this lasts for a shockingly long length of time as well. It's 10 turns long, and obviously with his burst phase, you can try to like weave in 2 lots of his Master Scroll Genji Glove attack, so you're doing a large amount of damage. There's a lot to really like about Locke, and he enables a lot of characters that wouldn't normally be around because he gives them defense ignore on everything that they do, including himself, including whatever support characters you've got. You got some off-turn characters, pair them up with Locke. You've got Garnet along to the right, pair her up with Locke. There's a massive misconception, I feel, that Garnet reduces the value of Locke, and I don't believe that that's true. Why, like, cut your nose off to spite your face? Locke does very different things to Garnet. You could realistically not pull for Locke if you didn't want to and just rely on Garnet, but obviously variety is the spice of life, and we like to try and encourage people to not rely on one unit all of the time, unless its name is Vayne. But equally, Garnet does very different things to Locke. Locke enables different characters to Garnet as well. Like, if there's a hard-hitting character that you don't use very often because the enemies are just too tanky nowadays for them, Locke allows you to do that, and there's no reason why you can't use both either. The only thing that I would say that Locke doesn't provide is HP damage cap, and Garnet does provide that, and Brave gains. So if I were to pick one or the other, if I had to because of resource management, I would probably pick Garnet. But that being said, it's a very, very short thing to try and pick, because I do think that Locke is also very good. Garnet just has the edge because she just provides that many more buffs than he does. But I can't say anything bad about Locke. He's still really good. If I were gonna nitpick at Locke, it's the fact that there is an element of RNG to his kit, and we all know how much I dislike RNG in a kit. However, it's not as bad as people think it is. You have HP plus Miracle Shoes, which is the other thing you get if you don't get Genji Glove from Skill 1 or C65. It's obviously not ideal. You'd rather get Genji Glove every time, because this attack is an instant turn rate attack that you can then just go straight back in and try and get it again, but this will eat into your BT phase. If a Lufenia Orb's being particularly problematic, you then either need to use this or use the same skill again to try and overwrite it. There are complications to Locke's kit that Garnet's kit just doesn't have. So if we are comparing those two, because that is the talk of the town at the moment, even though they're very different from each other, Garnet is a lot more linear. She probably will last for God knows how long, and Locke does have a couple of complications with his kit, whereas she doesn't. However, there are complications with Garnet's kit that people don't talk about either. Like, it's rare, but there might be enemies that absorb both of the elements that she provides, and honestly, like I said, variety is the spice of life. We're in a era of time in the game where you could pretty much take whoever you wanted, and I don't think that any character devalues another at this point. It's just a case of whether you want to stick with one character for a long period of time and save resources for ages and ages, or if you like kind of mixing things up and doing things differently to one another. Because, like I said, I can only fault Locke by nitpicking at him, and I do still think he's really good. So finally, at last, we can talk about an event again, because we actually know what's coming with this one for once. In the last couple of weeks, we had no idea what was going on, so I kind of had to miss out talking about events pretty much altogether. But now we know the Dimensions End Transcendance Tier 7 is going to come along with Locke and Firion's banners. And honestly, from what I've been reading and watching and talking to people about, Dimensions End Transcendance 7 is actually one of the easier ones, because our power creep has been elevated so heavily that you know, it's just easier to get past a lot of the gates. Certainly the left and right gates, because they're regular Lufenia missions, and the middle one even isn't that bad compared to those damn flower dragons we had in the last round. But they, you know, we didn't really have Garnet in the JP version, and we have Garnet at full capacity, so if you're really struggling with it, you could just take her and she's going to wreck face here. So we'll go over each of the gates themselves, but the gates are actually very easy. So the left gate requires a blue crystal and the right gate requires a red, so Locke and Firion. The left gate requires 4 HP attacks in 1 turn to satisfy the Lufenia Orb. There's loads of characters that can do this. If you did want to take Garnet, her off-turn damage does 3, her Eternal Darkness does 4. If you wanted to take Alize here, she's going to do loads. Machina, Locke. You know, there's tons of characters at this point that can deal 4 HP damage or attacks or more. In the Abyss event, we had to deal 5. So if you can fulfill that, you can fulfill this, and you'll just trounce the enemies as they come. The Ghost Brothers, which are on the right-hand side, are really not very threatening from what I've watched. They're very similar to the typical kinds of fights we've had with them since the day the game came out. They just got more health and hit a bit harder. But the orb for this one requires you to deal Brave or HP damage with trap attack. So again, Firion, or Keita, or Maria. There's loads of characters that can fulfill debuff-based attacks, just that we all naturally have access to. And if you don't, then there are plenty of characters available even right now that you could try and grab with that can do that kind of thing. Firion being obviously the main one. Now the main one, the middle gate, is against the Imps, or a variant of the Imps from Sephiroth's mission. And these have a very strange way of going about their Lufenia Plus, where if you act, the orb ticks down 2 turns, but if they act, then it ticks up. So realistically, it's asking you for off-turn damage, trap damage, however you want to do that kind of thing. So there are tons of ways of doing this, like all the trap characters that we were talking about. You can use Garnet if you want to, because she's going to deal damage even if they are taking turns. Snow, Auron, Zack, oh, maybe not Zack, but there's loads of ways of dealing damage whilst letting the enemies take turns and it staying safe for you. Machina even has a trap-based attack as well. People, myself included, tend to forget that he does do off-turn damage, as well as the fact that it compounds his own attack, so he's perfect for this, to be honest. But then the other thing that you can do to recover the Lufenia Orb is heal at least 20% HP with any ability. So, Firion. I think Lena is particularly good for this because she's got debuff evasion, and the enemies do like to put a nasty debuff, and they have HP poison naturally as an aura, so that's something you want to be able to deal with, so you want to keep yourself healthy very, very regularly. And the other major mechanic these guys have is when they hit certain HP thresholds, they put a yellow aura around them that makes them ultra tanky. Now, the point of this is it's tanky through defense, so if you're taking Locke, you have defense ignore, you don't really have to care. But you can just bypass that by either brute forcing it with various different methods, or you can actually try and take the aura down, which is taken down on a countdown, where it ticks down if they take turns or if you heal, and just various different things like that you can use to just Firion your way through it if you want to do it both ways. As long as the aura comes down eventually, you'll probably find that this is actually one of the easier Lufenia missions we've had in quite a while, which is weird for a Dimension's End. So now it's time for Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and let everyone know whether you would or wouldn't pull on any given banner and why. So we're finally back to polls. Now that we know banners before they're coming, we're back to polls. So thank you very much to all of my patrons for their votes and their comments, and also their patience with me during the anniversary period, because it was a little bit up in the air the whole time, but everyone was very, very accommodating. So thank you all very much for your patience. So going into the comments of the 100+ people we asked, nobody's putting on gems for Firion, which doesn't surprise me, if I'm perfectly honest. 18% said that they were going to use 100 or more tickets, though, whether that's for Xande or Firion. I would assume Firion, because he is still useful without his BT, and like he's not great without it, because no BT character without their BT is ideal at this point, but you can still find uses for him, certainly for End Transcendance 7 if you wanted to. 12% said less than 100 tickets, 53% of people said they already had everything here, I am definitely in that camp myself, and 18% said absolutely not. So then going over to Locke's batch, this one's like, I expected this to be higher in the gems category, but I do think Garnet sapping up everybody's green book resources has probably exhausted this a little bit more than perhaps it would have done previously, because before Garnet, Locke was kind of the one everyone was looking forward to. So 38% of people still saying that they're going to be putting gems here, 42% said that they were going to use 100 or more tickets, 12% said they were going to use less than 100 tickets, and 8% said no thank you. I'm in the camp of some tickets, I think, because while I really like Locke, and I think that he opens up a lot of things for characters that aren't typically used at the moment because of the defense ignore properties and the safety that comes along with him, I don't need him, and if you have Garnet, realistically, you don't really need to be pulling for anybody for quite some time, but it'd make it a really boring game if you only used one character for the next god knows how many months, right? Like, we've been there, we've done that, I've been there, I've done that. I like to have a little bit of variety, but if I have to live without Locke, I absolutely can. I'll be going into this banner hoping for the LD, and then I'll token the BT, because I don't personally plan on pulling for Edgar or Papalimo if I need to. And yeah, that's kind of my story with it, but let's go into some comments. So Pale Raider says, I was going to gem Locke before the anniversary reveal, and I still am. He churns out near Machina levels of damage consistently and has a bunch of support features to boot. With Ico, Locke, and any damage dealer, I'll hopefully be able to roll my face on my keyboard to clear mostly Fenias. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I wouldn't mind de-stressing some of these fights. Locke helps achieve this. Happy pulls to all. So yeah, I think that, honestly, Ico's not the first character that I'd think to pair with Locke, but between the two of them, you're covered for a lot of stuff. Like, you don't need to have Last Stand in your party if you get resurrected from the dead anyway, right? But Locke also makes it so that if you don't get killed, then you get pushed up to 50% anyway. And he means that everyone you pair him with is going to deal a very large amount of damage. So, yeah, can't argue with this. NeoAnima, however, says, I'm skipping this banner entirely. I already have Tifa, and I'm not a fan of Locke, and even though his BT effect is off the charts, I didn't think he was necessary even before Queen Garnet era, although their BT effects aren't very similar, which is pretty much all I was trying to say earlier. Firion and Xande banner is also a skip for me, because I already have both LDs, and my ingots are destined for Squall, Theodore, and Tidus next month. I will admit I really look forward to Xande C90, as I used him quite a lot when he was released, particularly in Alexander Lufenia back in the day, but his use is more of a niche as a Dark Enchanter, since he is once again thrashed by Vivi as a Dark DPS unit. Xande, I want to like Xande, and I have actually used him more than I ever thought I would. He's one of these characters that doesn't look very good on paper, but there's been a lot of situations like Abyss recently asked for a green staff unit. He was useful in that. Maybe I'll use him in future content and not really realise it. Like, it's one of those characters that kind of creeps under the rug for me. Tifa is going to be really good still, and if you don't like Locke, you really don't have to go for him. Like, he's great, but so are a lot of characters, and that's going to be kind of the motif, I'm really sorry to say this, for quite some time to come when it comes to characters. When they say pull for your favourites in this era, we really do mean it. And then from Neck, who says, 100 tickets for Locke maybe. Personally for me, Garnet BT took down all of my interest in Locke. While they aren't the same per se, I feel Garnet feels my team compositions better than Locke could, plus I was also lucky enough to grab Markia and Null. While Anniversary was nice to me, I'd prefer to save some resources here and there for upcoming favourites, since this is the time where all of our prep work and pulls from the past year come to shine, so I don't feel Locke would do any better for me than what I already have. The maybe is simply to have a bigger roster, since Crevasse and Abyss are good reminders of how good it is to have a flexible roster of characters at hand. Plus, we've seen that weird stream schedule for the next Opera Omnia info drop, so maybe, or maybe not, there's another surprise in the lurking. Vincent LD flashbacks. I must admit, the fact that it's being revealed a week early and we're still in anniversary month, this does stink a lot of what happened with Vincent LD last year, but I don't want to say for certain, because I don't know, whether something's going to happen from that at Banner or not. But it is something maybe to keep in the back of your mind, like, maybe something could happen before the end of the month. And I do actually agree here. I feel like I'm taking a lot of the comments that say that they're not pulling for Locke, despite the fact that the vast majority of people are saying that they are. And that's because I kind of wanted to showcase both sides of the spectrum. I would like to have Locke, but I can absolutely live without him. And I think the same is true for everybody. Like, if you're going to prioritize any BT character for the pure purpose of clearing the content in the game, if you haven't already pulled for Garnet, go and do it now. And then finally, Chemix, who is brand new to my Patreon, a massive thank you goes out to you, says, I was originally going to pull Locke for his BT and his kit, having started roughly around mid-late October, sometime in the beginning of Reigns' banner. But between Garnet, BT, and the fact I grab all of Markin's kit as well beforehand, and Ico, I may just miss out on Locke and everyone else here. Simply because of one simple thing. I'm broke, and I've had to pity multiple LDs in the past week due to bad luck, thanks Alize, Ace, and I'm assuming Ico too, and Freya LD coming up in the coming months. I just can't allow more resources to DPS units. It does help somewhat that I already have Tifa's equipment collecting dust for when I want to allot the orbs to use her. I'm not a huge fan of Firion's kit now that Garnet BT has graced me, and while I do need a Darker Enchanter and Imperil, Xande doesn't look that great outside of that. This, first of all, it's never nice to have terrible luck at any given point. I know what it's like, all of you guys know what it's like. It's always good to try and lift people up when they don't feel great about their luck, no matter what the situation is outside of that. So I'm really sorry that you had poor luck over but like having to pity multiple LDs. But also, you have everything you need right now. Like, honestly, if you wanted to, you could just stockpile resources for a while, maybe throw some tickets here and there, but like, you'd probably be fine for 90% of content. The only thing is, with DE, Abyss, things like that, it does ask for a bit more of a roster from you. So if you've got enough characters to kind of keep you going for the time being, you absolutely don't have to pull for Locke. Maybe if you get a couple of tickets, you could go and throw a couple at his LD and then token his BT down the line if you fancy it. What I'm trying to say with this particular point is that you don't have to go for everything day one. Like, if you go for the LD, like I'm only going for the LD for the time being, and I don't get it, I might get some tickets from Papalimo and the event that follows it, and Locke's probably going to be live for a little while still, so you don't have to go for everything day one. So now we come to the big question of the video. Should you be pulling for Firion? Maybe Locke? Maybe Tifa? Xande? Well, with Locke, I think that there's a lot that he has to offer that a lot of players probably don't have access to. Like, where he does do high damage thanks to his Genji Glove X Master Scroll attack. He does have healing in his kit, though realistically you don't really want to use Phoenix Ray all that often, which is kind of weird because you still want to get to the Genji gloves, goddammit. He has relative auras and he has it, but the real spice with him is the unique BT effect. You get the intermittability, so Barsh's effect, so you get safety that comes along with him, and if you pair him up with characters that have last stand for the party, like Porum or Queen, or if you like having a character like Ico who can back him up when it comes to that kind of healing effect, you can do that. But I really enjoy the defense ignoring properties that he grants to the whole party. Like, that's a large amount of damage for a large amount of characters that wouldn't be able to do that kind of damage normally without an effect like that. And stuff like that that's more unique, I find very appealing. So you can pair him up really nicely with another character's BT phase and have his BT effect in the background, or vice versa, and it works well. I think the reason I like Locke is because he's very flexible as a character. He does a lot of things, and he still has high damage to cap it off, so I really enjoy him for that. But he does have a bit of a complicated kit, like, and a bit of RNG. Maybe you get Miracle Shoes a lot, and maybe you don't want to use Miracle Shoes because Lufenia orbs are ticking down. His BT effect is ticking down. You don't want to use Miracle Shoes. But it's there. It is like, there are situations where it's still a really good move and it allows you to kind of try things again, and he is still really good. People are very much asking the question. I get asked on Twitter and all sorts, like, do I pick Locke or Garnet? Do I pick Locke or Garnet? And while I think they perform very differently, I do understand the question because of the fact that we have limited resources. And if you ask me, the answer is Garnet. I do think that she is, if we're talking path of least resistance entirely, like favourites and all that notwithstanding, Garnet will carry you for a larger period of time because she has all of these buffs. The HP damage cap up, the Brave gains up, the attack up, the off-turn damage. She has everything. But I don't think that she devalues Locke because he functions so differently from her. Firion, on the other hand, kind of got a bit of a raw deal because of Garnet. Because he does a lot of the same things as her. And because it's HP damage cap, maybe you fancy pairing the two together for extra HP damage cap up. You could absolutely do that and double down on all of these funky things. I'm kind of considering it, but I kind of want to mull over it a little bit, see what my options are, see who I'm looking to plan for BT in the future, because I actually really like Firion, and the idea of having it like arc go off while there's traps going off. I do enjoy off-damage teams generally, and Garnet fits very well into them, and so does Firion. But Firion does less damage than Garnet. He has less buffs than Garnet. He has less auras than Garnet. He has more healing than her, I guess, but that's kind of the only thing he really has up on her. And his BT effect has a condition as well, whereas hers doesn't. And hers lasts longer. So realistically, if you're going to pick one of the two, you'd pretty much pick Garnet every time. Now, Tifa does do really good damage still, but most people already have her by now, and she is very much kind of sticking to the single target damage route, so you're not going to take her to AoE fights. But she's very good at it, and her EX hits really, really hard now. She's just not the only character that does damage like that anymore. Like, when she came out with her LD, there was nothing quite like her in terms of damage. Now we've seen quite a lot of characters that do a similar amount, if not more, than she does. And Xande, well, Xande is there, and that's pretty much all I have to say about him. But I have used him more than I thought I would, so maybe that. But if we're talking straight recommendations, I would pull for Locke. I think he's very good, and if you don't have Tifa, I'd definitely pull for Locke, but I wouldn't go too heavily on him if you don't want to. Don't feel like you have to because he's completely backbreakingly busted, because while he's very, very good, we do have other characters that work that way, and the content doesn't really warrant a character like Locke unless you really need him. But with the Firion and Xande banner, I'd probably just skip that one entirely if you don't have the characters already. Firion, though, like I said earlier, you don't have to green Firion for him to be useful. If you have his BT kit and you were looking forward to using it, use it alongside Garnet, but don't necessarily green it. Give him a book, get the free ingot out of it. There's uses for Firion even if you don't go all in on him. I think that a lot of people have a perception that you have to go all in on a unit for you to use them. It's not always true. So that's going to be all for today's video. Hopefully next week we can start to get some semblance of normality when it comes to the scheduling again. Like, I know this video is a little bit early, but from Tuesday we should be able to get things back in motion again, and we'll be able to talk about Edgar, Papalimo, Dark Knight Cecil, all that good stuff. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Locke, and more importantly, whether you think that Garnet's existence has impacted him. Is it something that you're finding you're having to choose between the two? I mean, I didn't go very far into BT plussing early units so that I had the ability to green Locke, and I kind of kept a load aside just in case some sort of surprise happened. But not everybody did that, so I'm curious as to what you guys think of that. Leave a comment below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell for notifications, and I shall love you all and leave you until next time. So thank you very much for watching today, beautiful, and I will see you next time. Take care.